Figuring out what you want and figuring out what matches that, and then also being able to convey it in a way that makes you excited to read it.
This goes out to the challengers. Comics and conversation, y'all. What? Keep the conversation moving along. Keep reading comics, keep your local store strong. It's hard and it's a job for the challengers. What? Comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers, a comics industry business podcast with Patrick Brower and W. Dale Bush.
Do I want you to turn the air conditioning off? Of course not. I appreciate you asking.
No, you don't.
we need
don't.
to get this. We need to get through this as quick as possible. It's wearing off.
The alcohol?
Yes.
Good.
That is a great way to get through Fridays, my friend. I'll tell you what.
Take your word for it.
Knowing that Lazo's does takeaway margaritas really changes things in a good way.
Sure.
Because you had several conversations with me early in the day.
I did.
And what was my mood?
Heightened.
Toward the end of the day, loving everybody.
That's great.
Life was good.
That's great. I'm glad to hear it. All it took was a depressant.
No, it didn't depress me at all. It made me happy.
That's not why it's called that, but
nope,
okay.
That's
okay.
not. Nope.
That's fine.
It is wonderful.
That's great.
It's such a nice, warm, and I don't know. It's not alcohol. It is Lazo's margaritas. They always have this effect on me.
Specifically it?
And it's great.
Although, I mean, alcohol does have a similar effect on you.
Well, it has an effect, but also a drink does not have that effect.
Sure.
This, though, highly recommended.
It's great.
Couldn't tag them on Instagram. I don't think they have an Instagram account. It took a lot of being put on hold by Gina, or to Gina, to find out if they actually would let us take margaritas away.
Sure.
And Dal, you know what a Slurpee cup looks like.
I think I do, yeah.
And you know specifically the dome that they put on those?
Yeah.
Now, we have been in situations together where we've ordered drinks for takeaway, and they're out of the flat lids.
Yeah.
So they give you the dome lid. Never have I been to a place where they, outside of an actual Slurpee, where they fill the liquor, or I'm sorry, the beverage,
the adult beverage,
any kind of beverage, the soda pop, what have you, into the dome part of the lid.
Wow. So because they have the larger opening at the top of the dome, they put the lid on first and then they filled it from there. So they could just keep going after they reached the lip of the cup.
Yes.
That's great. Good for them.
Yes. It was great.
Bucktown, the neighborhood that Challengers Comics and Conversation solely operates in, has a lot of little hidden gems, things that people talk about, places they go to. We've raved before about things like Small Cheval, and certainly there's several different coffee places. We've got Electric Mud across the street.
We have a lot of armed carjackings.
We do. The 606, which is variably safe, depending on what time of day you go.
Yeah, sure.
And
if you're there noon.
And what you have on you.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's nice to know that we can add one more thing, which is Lazo's Margaritas is one of those little when you go to Bucktown, you've got to fill in the blank.
To be fair, we've always known that.
It's across the street from Margie's, so you can get yourself a nice sundae, then immediately go get yourself a very good margarita.
I wonder if she should go the opposite direction in that.
Do the margarita and then the sundae?
Yeah.
I don't think so, because I would usually recommend people not be sauced when they go to Margie's, because the wait can be kind of intense, and there's a lot of people outside, and I think the lower your inhibitions when you're out there, the worse things could conceivably get for everybody.
Do you want to put alcohol on top of that ice cream, or ice cream
as someone
on
who
top of
doesn't
alcohol?
drink alcohol, I don't know how it all works inside people's stomachs.
It works in a very good way.
It's
a very nice
that
way.
Is the thing I'm gathering from this episode of Contest of Challengers, Comics Industry Alcohol Podcast.
Hold on, are you drunk? You see, you're slurring your words. You're tripping over things. Oh my goodness!
I am.
Do
drunk.
you need to dry out?
I am drunk on podcasting.
Wow.
Yeah.
For 4 minutes, you're already off the chain.
I'm a weakling when it comes to it. Yeah.
Well, you know, depending on what you've been doing during this pandemic, your tolerance may be low.
Sure.
I myself am only a social drinker. I don't drink at home unless I have people over.
I am a lot more intolerant, but not about alcohol.
That's true. I had so many different segues, and I didn't know which way to go.
Sorry.
And rather than pick one, I just let silence lay there.
You stopped dead.
Dal, sometimes I think it's okay to just be in a room with someone and be silent.
Yeah, I mean, depending on the pandemic and your general vicinity to that person in day-to-day life, yes, but you know, in other circumstances, maybe less so.
You don't have to fill every waking moment with noise.
I just think two people who maybe don't live together being in one place at one time for a duration of time indoors is maybe not what I would suggest people do during a pandemic.
I see.
Yeah, but go on.
There were also several shootings this afternoon in the area.
Okay.
Gina has
that is also not unusual for
an
Bucktown.
app that, like, we saw cop cars racing by, and she's able to say, "Oh, they're heading to this street because there was an armed robbery."
Yeah, there was a thing. I want to say maybe a couple months ago, maybe at the basically where Soul Crab is.
Oh,
that is now boarded up.
Yeah, you were there at the time.
I was in the store across the street and heard noises, but honestly, it was around 4th of July-ish. So I'm like, oh, it's probably just people doing fireworks. No, those were actual gunshots. There was an altercation, and then it was a lot of bystanders.
That was a big one because people were killed,
cars,
and that made the news.
Yeah. Which is how I ended up hearing about it, was going, oh, what was this? And then looking out the windows and going, wow, there's a lot of cop cars there. And then finding out later, oh, no, that's what happened. Okay.
Yeah. It's funny because when it was happening at the store, or not at the store, but when we were at the store and we found out about it, there was a gentleman in the store who we've talked about before in this podcast who is a conspiracy theorist, it seems.
Okay.
And Gina had made the mistake of saying it out loud what had happened.
Mm-hmm.
And this gentleman postulated that couldn't be because there aren't even any gangs in Chicago anymore, so who's doing all this shooting?
There's what?
And I know better. Like, I'm still having a hard time sometimes recognizing people. If you have a baseball cap on and glasses and a mask, I may not know who you are right away.
Sure.
Other people I get immediately.
Sure.
Like, fast enough to surprise them.
Uh-huh.
And it's weird how that works against me sometimes because people will see that or expect it. And then if you are wearing a different hat or something, it's like, nope, I have no idea who you are.
Yeah.
But I also do a thing where if someone goes, yeah, it's, Bob Smith, I know your name. I know who you are, Bob.
Uh-huh.
Like, oh, okay. And then next time I don't recognize them.
There is a person in our subscription service who basically will take 2 steps in the door and then immediately say his name and ask for his books. And then basically, like, his goal every time he comes to the store is to be out of the store in 10 seconds or less. Like, he acts like being in the store is, like, physically harming him. Not that he's mean about it or anything, but he has zero patience. Everything is like, the name, the books, here you go. Do you want a bag? No. Receipt? No. Out the door. Like, so when I see him coming, it's like I'm immediately jumping out of my chair and trying to grab the books, but I can never beat him. Because the second he's in the door, he's saying his name, and it's like, my hands are on the books. I'm taking him out of the box.
I mean, some people just have a routine, and they're freaked out if you change it on them or whatever.
But this person's been shopping with us for years.
Yeah.
And this is the same routine as, like, the second time they came in.
I feel I'm going to say
ago.
I respect that their desire to get in and get out, and I appreciate it, but I also think you're going to say, no, you know this person, and you would not say that.
I don't know if you do know them. I mean, you might recognize them, or if I explained it, you'd probably be like, oh, yeah, but it's not like they spend enough time in the store for you to be like, oh, I know them.
But
the
if
whole
they've been
point
shopping
is
with
they
us
don't.
for years...
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you after the podcast.
That's fine.
And you'll say yes or no. But the thing that bothers me about it, and it really shouldn't, is that, like, I get that, and this is pre-pandemic. This is not something where someone's like, I don't feel safe in the store, and I get that.
See, I took that to be the reason.
No,
until you said...
This was a year ago. Like, this was 3 years ago. This is someone who, no matter what's going on, no matter what the weather's like or who's working or whatever's going on, they do not want to be in the store. And it's like, why aren't you doing mail order then? Like, this isn't someone who comes in the day their books come out. They come in, like, every couple or 3 months, to get the 2 or 3 issues of the one comic book they've been getting this entire time. They never respond to emails. They never add anything to their list. They don't have any.
Do they only follow
with us.
one creator?
No.
Okay.
It's not even a creator. It's a franchise they follow, and they don't even follow other things in that franchise. They just get the one book. But
okay,
like,
that takes away 2 of my guesses.
I take it like I shouldn't do this. It's not a reflection on me as a person or us as a store.
Might be.
But that's the thing. I take it personally. I even before the pandemic, a lot of what we were trying to do was like, have relationships with people as far as
fostering an environment of welcome.
Yeah, creating a space where people would feel comfortable being there for a little while and hopefully take a little ownership in it. Like, that's always nice to see when it happens. And we encourage that as much as we can. People feeling like it's their comic shop. And so for somebody who is just, like, almost morally opposed to that is a thing where it's like, it's a little mean. It seems a little mean, It would be like...
Do you feel used?
No, I mean... Not really, because that's the thing. They're not using me. Like, what about this do you not like? And I'm gesturing to my entire body when I do that, just so people on the podcast understand what exactly I am implying. What I'm saying is, it feels weird to be a place that someone does not want to be at.
I know you're projecting, and
I definitely am.
I'm not in any way saying...
I've never had a discussion with this person to get to the bottom of this.
Sure.
So I don't know the reasons, and I'll never know the reasons, because
maybe
they don't
this
stick
is
around.
the most comfortable they've ever felt in a comic store, and they have a severe phobia of being in public, and, like, to them, this is a huge step.
Maybe. And honestly, this could be a thing where if they did stick around and we did have a conversation, the topics of that conversation might be a thing where it's like, oh my god, I never wanted to know any of these things, and now I do.
Maybe that person will tell you why there's no more gangs in Chicago.
Maybe. Certainly this sort of book they read is one where I think you probably have specific viewpoints that are diametrically opposed to my viewpoints, and if we discuss them, you would probably never shop here ever again.
See, I was going to make a joke, and I with a specific book in mind, but there's at least one person who does read that book, and I'm like, I don't want to offend anybody by...
But no,
because it's just a joke. I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings.
And honestly, I don't have anything against this book or its franchise or whatever. It's not objectionable in any way. It's just knowing a little bit about that fandom. It's like, I know what they think. But I will say this.
Oh my god, is it Cyberfrog?
It's not a Comicsgate thing.
It couldn't be. We don't care.
We don't care in the Comicsgate stuff. I will say this though. We've had instances where like people have left reviews online or reached out to us at certain points. And they'll have glowing things to say about the store, and it's people that are not necessarily the ones where we think of as having a deep emotional connection to what we do. So there are genuinely people out there who think a lot of what we do and think a lot of their experience with the store, where it's like, wow, I would have never predicted them to have that. And so I think that's cool.
Yeah, there's been plenty of times where there's people that we think maybe a little standoffish or like, oh, we're just not connecting with them. But it turns out they absolutely love the store. Yeah,
there was one guy that I, years ago, was someone who we felt like didn't like us or the store, and then came to find out later that it was because he had bad experiences with his previous store.
And he was holding comics, holding it against comics, which I would absolutely do the same thing in his shoes.
Yeah, it was basically like, didn't want to open his heart again and get hurt. And so it was like, I get it. Like, people have baggage like that, and I don't want to, like, ascribe motivations to people when I don't know what the deal is.
With that particular person, it was such a facet of us saying, God, I think this guy hates shops here. That one day we just made a point of talking to him more, like not being like
him out.
Not being like, hey man, what's your deal? Do you hate us?
No, but just trying to engage him a little bit to make him feel a little comfortable, so that he would maybe volunteer. Like, do you hate us? Like, not like I don't want to make it sound
like comics killed his mom.
Yeah, I don't want to make it sound like, this is,
you have to like us. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, I don't have, like, a people-pleasing desperation or anything, but when it's part of my business to have people, like, be engaged with the store, and that's of value to our experience, like, when it seems like they're not into that, or when it seems like they are, like, completely shutting that part of it out, it's weird. I don't know. I definitely have feelings about it.
Well, today was an example of the best and the worst things about selling comics in 2020, and we'll get to that later. But
they're both Thor. Anyway,
they are not. That is only one facet. I've been thinking more about my place in the industry because coming up this week is my 30th anniversary of being a full-time comic book retailer.
Would you be okay if someone used the term elder statesman?
No.
Why not?
Because I specifically do not feel like that. Because an elder statesman is... Because I still feel like a kid in this industry.
Sure. I think that's great, but why would you think elder statesman would be...
I don't know. I don't take elder statesman as a compliment.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
To me, it's just like, oh, that's someone who's been around forever and has something to say.
I mean, I think it's that, but I always think it has the connotation of, like, somebody that you should probably spend a little time listening to because they've seen it all and they have... Like, this is... What you're experiencing is new to you, but it's not new to them, and so they may have a perspective on it.
So, like your grandfather?
Yeah, kind of.
I don't like that either.
Okay.
I appreciate your definition. It is just not the way I look at it, nor do I care about it as I like around this time last year, I was thinking about, I wanted to do a retrospective of being in this industry for this long. And then I'm like, I should wait and do it at 30. So as it was getting closer, I'm like, I can just do this, but if I just start writing, which I did, it's going to go all over the place.
Sure.
There's going to be no
30 years, yeah, it is.
cohesion. And also, the further I get from those early years, those memories are dull,
of course,
and faded, and not necessarily right.
Sure.
You know how I get when I'm excited? I remember things wrong. I was being Brandy.
Oh, I see, yes.
Yeah. So I figured I would need some structure, so I asked David Harper if he wanted to give me questions or lead me in a way I could write this up. And David said, why don't we just talk it out?
Okay.
So...
Like a regular biographer.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And he's like, what do you want to cover? So I gave him just a very few, like a very blanket, like, just a few suggestions. Not even a whole lot, to be honest. And
all you wanted to talk about was Ultraverse, Dark Horse Heroes, and the most recent Power Man series.
Weirdly, none of those came up.
That was it.
They're all going to be cut from the final. So David and I had a long conversation, and he led the discussion, knowing that we would both diverge. And it's interesting because a lot of the things that I'd written out, we didn't even touch.
Yeah.
But it's maybe for the better because David is such a positive guy that he didn't keep me away from negativity, but he didn't focus on it.
Sure.
And he didn't even bring up topics that made me cringe, as it was.
Okay.
And we talked for a couple hours last night, and it's gonna be a written piece.
Okay.
But it is it may be just a straight interview. That'll go up on sketch.com on Thursday, the 27th, which is my actual 30th anniversary.
Oh, that's cool.
So I've been going through a lot of old photos, and I haven't had printed out photos for the last, 2 decades, because who does that anymore,
Nobody.
But I went through the photos that I had, and there's some gems in there. I couldn't find the ones from Batman Adventures Day. Remember that? With Mike Paraback and Rick Burchett and Vince Pace as Robin, and you, me, and Chris Carlson.
I remember parts of that day.
All right. But there were photos of all of us.
That's cool.
And I couldn't find those specifically, but I found some good young Patrick pictures.
Nice. And
I found a few gems that'll make it in, and then the rest I got to go through my digital files and see what to add.
Oh, that's cool.
Because it's going to be, a transcribed 2-hour conversation. There'll be plenty of room for photos.
Sure.
So this, I don't want to do a retrospective here because A, that is already coming out. B, I feel like it's possible that Contest of Challengers 500 will have some of that.
I had an idea for 500, and I guess I could just mention it here, and you can tell me if you think it's...
Well, I can say that I reached out to somebody to help us with this. Somebody I think you'd be happy to have their input on.
Louis Simonson.
And I've never heard back.
Okay.
So I'm a little disappointed.
Okay.
But what is your idea?
It's I don't know if it's enough for an episode, but the idea was basically each of us would come up with 5 questions for the other person.
Okay.
Not history things but just like a question about the business or a question about the industry or a question about perspective.
I know all 5 of my questions right now.
I mean, they can even be like goofy ones if you want them to be, but in general, it would be something where it's like,
I'll give you time to prepare. Why?
No, I mean, I'm serious about this. Like this.
Why did you do this?
I mean, that could be a legitimate question. That's fine too. But I mean, that was my thought. Was just each of us would do 5, alternating, taking turns, and then that's 10 questions, and it's hopefully getting at things that either like we've always wanted to know about the other person, or kind of not putting them on the spot per se, but getting a chance to say like, here is a deep philosophical question about the industry that we have never talked about, or something I don't know your take on, and I want to know.
But
like,
it's
not a conversation necessarily,
but context of comics, right?
It's all comics.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd be down with that. Sure.
Yeah.
I think that episode will have a lot of
right, which is fine. Like, I don't want to do a thing where like I give you the questions ahead of time and you prepare something,
right?
But at the same time, these aren't going to be. I haven't even thought of them all. I've thought of like 1 or 2, but they're fairly open ended and things that are a little bit more, again, kind of philosophical and less, who would win in a fight or who's your least favorite company or whatever.
Right,
things that are, again, something where you can discuss it a little bit more.
I can tell you that David jokingly asked me a question like that, and it was, where would your life be right now if you didn't hire Dal?
Better.
Because remember in the beginning it came down to you or Eric.
Yeah, it's true.
Your friend Eric.
Yeah.
And that I was considering both of you.
Sure.
And he's like, "Where do you think you'd be if you'd hired that other kid instead?"
Oh golly!
Right?
I can't wait to read that.
Oh no! I mean, it wasn't a serious question.
Right. Okay.
It was just like, how different would your life have been? Like, just like, man, can you imagine?
Probably a little different.
Yeah, I think so.
Different.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. Let's do that. And even if
what episode is this?
We have 7 weeks.
Okay, so plenty of time to come up with a few questions.
Sure. I think that's a...
And then I would assume that each of us would, after asking the other person the question, we would then take our turn answering our own question to sort of give... I
figured we would just be so angry we'd shut it off and walk away.
I mean, that's also possible, too. 500 could be the last episode, and it could be 4 minutes long.
500 is a good run.
It really is.
I mean, we just need to see if we can get to 500 at this point.
Yeah.
Without really trying to change gears. We've hired an attorney to help us with...
extricate ourselves from the lease for Blue.
Yeah. Because we're having a lot of difficulty with the landlord there.
Yeah. Which had an amazing, after a lot of things where we were basically saying like we cannot afford to keep renting here, and like them saying like, oh, we're going to try and rent it, and us going like, we can't keep paying you until it's empty or until it's rented, simply because we don't have much confidence it's going to be rented soon. And no, they've got people working on it. And then finally hearing from them where it's like, we're having a lot of trouble finding somebody. Like, of course you are. It's a pandemic, and you're talking about commercial real estate. This is what we were telling you, and why we didn't want to be there. Like, buh. Anyway, getting away from that into something else, as long as I'm asking questions, here's 2.
Okay.
One that I'm just making sure you're okay with, which is, are you okay with this month's new catalog posting on the website just being recommendations and then steering everybody to previewsworld.com and DC Connect and Pullbox?
Yeah, sure. I mean, how many of our subscribers have not been invited to Pullbox?
Almost everybody who has ever responded to one of our emails for the monthly catalog is on Pullbox.
So like 10%?
Yeah. Which is why I think doing it this month, it's not that...
I mean, 10% was a joke, but...
It's not that I don't want to do it, it's just that I don't feel like it would be of as much value...
Sure.
as the amount of work it would take.
I was talking with Ryan Voss today, and he had said how he really enjoys going through the preview system and looking for things, and how much he thinks DC is missing out by not being part of this, and how he wished that Pullbox was active years ago.
Sure. Yeah, I think certainly what I've seen as far as approving a lot of things that come in from Pullbox is that people are... Like, there's things that we recommend, and we'll see, like, a boost in that. Like the things that we'll call out on the website, or things that we'll talk about on the podcast, or even things that we'll promote in store. That's the stuff that people are adding, but they're also finding a lot of stuff that I would not think that they would have been interested in.
Like a Jaws jigsaw puzzle?
And they've just never found before. Like, it's not that information wasn't available to them. There's even comics and graphic novels where we would have it on the website, but no one would dig down that far enough. They'd look at the opening stuff, and they'd look at the premier publishers, and then they'd kind of be done. But having something where they have a little bit more time and they're a little bit more methodical about how they're going through it creates a situation that they are finding things and adding stuff that because they can add it directly through the site and not have to then put it in an email and send it to us and have us respond to it. There's that kind of immediate gratification, even though they're not getting the book for 2 or 3 months, because they feel like, oh, they've got it because they clicked a button and it's done. So I think, yeah, we'll do a post and it'll be kind of the opening section we normally do, where it's like, here are the links to Previews World, here's the links to DC Connect, here's the stuff we're kind of highlighting, the big releases that we think people want to pay attention to, and then that'll kind of be it.
Okay.
So that'll probably go up, not this week, but maybe next week. The new catalog did go up on Diamond's site, but we're still working on the current catalog.
I'm waiting to be told when I can do Marvel.
Pretty much now.
Okay.
Well, and then Marvel, let me go in Sunday.
Uh-huh.
And then I'll do all of the additions.
Okay.
And then Sunday night you can do Marvel.
When you say do the additions,
all of the Ten of Swords stuff.
Oh, I see.
Because that's what you're waiting for, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you brought up Pullbox because I have a question and I went to check it today.
And then I have one more question. Don't let me forget.
Sure. I went to pull down the Pullbox orders today.
Sure.
And
yeah.
Go on.
I think I know what your question's going to be.
Well, go ahead.
Is it all the blank titles in the subscription ad?
That's the one.
So, while we will not be done with the current catalog for another week, the newest catalog, what I would refer to as the next catalog, did go live on previewsworld.com today.
Mm-hmm.
So certain people who are very, very good about turning in their orders...
Oh, it's all new stuff.
Went on at 8 a.m. this morning and added a bunch of stuff. Unfortunately, we won't add that catalog to our database for another week.
Couple of days,
probably.
Yeah.
So all of those series have series codes, but those series codes don't exist in our system, so they are blank titles.
Okay, so here's what I did.
Uh-huh.
Anything that had a title,
Uh-huh.
like Taskmaster,
Sure.
I approved.
Yep.
Anything that was blank, I left alone.
I did the same thing this morning, which is why I knew what you were going to ask.
Okay.
Because there was a few things where it's like, yes, add those. Oh, delete those. And then it's all these ones where it's like, I don't think it would be a problem if we added those, but I don't want to take the risk.
Sure.
Not when there's no value in having that in our system until a month from now anyway, so it's fine.
Here's another weird
Same thing happened last month.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
We had somebody subscribe to Spawn today,
Yes.
and when I added it to their list, went to post it,
Yep.
it posted issue 309
Yep.
and posted issue 311.
Weird. It probably means at some point 310 did not have the series code applied to it from Diamond.
But I looked it, and it's all there. So I added 310 as a special order.
Sure. It could.
And it let me, because normally when you go to do that, it'll say, hey, this person has a subscription. Are you sure you want to do this?
It could also be that 310 is going to get resolicited, and 311 has not been yet.
Okay.
So 309 is the most recently solicited issue.
It's also the next issue.
Yeah. So much stuff has been rescheduled and resolicited. Every publisher's dealing with it differently. Marvel is doing it in a way that I actually appreciate the most, where they just kept those orders open.
Yeah.
So, like, a lot of the stuff that's coming in November is like a Feb 20 code.
Gotcha.
Because it was supposed to come out in April, and instead of just canceling and resoliciting, they said, we'll just FOC it and whatever. Which maybe some stores hate if they don't do FOCs, but we do. And so keeping all those subscriptions and special orders tied to the original item code helps us a lot. It doesn't create a lot of weird data issues. So, yeah, once again, 2020 is an insane year because I'm saying Marvel did it the best of all the publishers.
I don't believe you.
I can't believe I'm saying it either. So here's my other question.
Yes.
Speaking
Gal,
of
you had
publishers
another question, I believe.
doing weird things in 2020.
Yeah.
I don't 100% have an answer on this. I'm mostly just looking for your thoughts on it.
Okay.
So if you feel strongly about it, I'll defer to you. Should we start selling DC Comics on Tuesday?
No.
Okay.
Here's why.
Mm-hmm.
Once again this week, we don't even have tracking for our order for next week. And that means you'll get it at 5:01 on Monday.
So either I stay late to try and get it on the shelves for Tuesday morning, or I don't, and we sell it Wednesday as normal. The reason I'm asking, you don't answer the phone a lot on Tuesdays?
Yeah.
We've been getting way more calls for people looking for Tuesday release DC Comics, mostly when Batman issues come out. I guarantee you there's going to be a lot of people Tuesday wanting to know if we have 3 Jokers on the shelf.
Well, at this point, we can't guarantee we're going to have 3 Jokers, so my answer is still no.
But I mean, realistically, setting aside a shortage of that issue or a weird delay in FedEx stuff, which is always a possibility.
Do you want to have to make spaces twice?
I mean, so here's my defense of maybe doing it on Tuesdays, even though I honestly don't want to. There's a chance that if there are other stores in the city that are selling their DC Comics on Tuesday and people are looking for new books, us not having them is us losing those sales. It's not just shifting it to Wednesdays. For a lot of our regular Wednesday traffic, I don't think they care, but there are people who are hardcore about new Batman comics, and they will not wait a day. I don't know how big that number is. I'll say right now that the amount of people who have either come in or called about Tuesday DC Comics is less than 10. It is not a swell of people.
Okay.
But I'm expecting that number to go up because, honestly, it has been going up each week. When we first started getting DC stuff from Lunar, it was maybe a person on a Tuesday that would call or email or come in and ask. Now it is getting up to like the half dozen and more. Very few of them are just coming in, but we are getting more phone calls and emails about Tuesday released DC books.
I don't know, man. I feel like those people aren't our customers anyway. They're just trying to find out who's doing it, and it's not
Which
like
is possible.
I don't know that it's... Yeah, I still say no.
Okay. I'm honestly fine with that. I just wanted to bring it to your
I think it would add more aggravation.
For sure. Oh my god, yes.
And we have some...
One of the main reasons we didn't want to do it in the first place.
Club members who
it
are...
It only helps DC as a concept. It doesn't help us in any way.
We have some club members who are so hyper about getting their books, which I understand.
Sure, they're excited about
but
comics.
When we get shorted a book and can honestly say, don't worry, we're going to get this later.
They are being replaced.
They still go out and buy it somewhere else because
they just have to wait 2 weeks then.
Yeah.
They don't want to wait 2 weeks. They want to read Justice League.
And it happened with Batman.
Yeah.
And I pointed out this week, I'm like, just so you know, I'm telling you we're getting Justice League in 2 weeks. If you go buy it somewhere else and then don't want to buy the one that we have on hold for you, I'm going to give you a hard time. And the person said, oh, really?
Yeah, you could see the conflict in his brain. The idea of like,
yes,
yes,
really.
I don't want you to be mad at me, and I don't want to be given a hard time, but I really want Justice League 51.
And you're going to get it.
I don't want to wait 2 weeks. I want to read it. If it's out in the world, I want to read it. And honestly, like, look, I mean, I get it. You're not wrong as a retailer to feel that way. But, I mean, not to play devil's advocate, but there's a little part of me that's like, this is someone who's legitimately excited to read this comic book. This isn't just like, I got to get it because it's $40 online or whatever.
I don't think that's true.
You don't think so?
I think that it will get read, but there is enough of a collector mentality.
You think they just want to have it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would... I'm definitely not trying to shame anybody, but in their buying habits...
But shame!
Shame! Yeah. Like, if they didn't need bulk covers, then I would think they'd be excited to read it.
Sure, okay. That's fair.
And that's fine. They can have both covers, but... And I'm the same way. I have AEW figures on order. I know I'll be getting them. I assume I'll be getting them. But, Jesus, how many times have you had Transformers figures on order and never get them?
Yeah, and honestly, there's been times that I've had robot toys on order from our distributor. But if I see them at a Target, I'm just going to buy them at the Target.
Right, but you're not going to go specifically to Targets looking for it because you've heard they're out.
Not specifically, but I might be more inclined to go to a Target instead of another grocery store or supermarket or department store because I think they might have it. Like, it definitely becomes part of my decision-making matrix.
But also... but
then they don't just sit in a pile. You know what I mean?
Right, but I was going to defend you, but I can't because I was going to say
I'm indefensible.
I was going to say when it comes in, you'll buy it again. You won't.
No,
you won't.
No, it probably gets. I mean, one of two things will happen. One, I'll stick Challengers with it, and hope that we can move another one. Or two, I will take the one from Challengers, quote unquote, buy it, and then
maybe don't finish that sentence. And then
yeah.
I think it's best if you...
I mean, it's something incriminating. It's something illegal, but it's definitely something where it's like
it's not
morally
great.
defensible.
You know what else isn't great?
What's that?
That there was a small chance that this recording studio burned down this week.
That's true.
The building next to ours caught on fire.
It did. Like
at this level, at the level that we're on.
Yeah.
And
the penthouse suite of the Challengers recording studio complex.
Yeah, the building next to us had to be evacuated.
Yep.
And it was potentially dangerous situation.
It was.
We were fine, though.
Did we end up hearing the cause? And wasn't it somebody was...
It was drug-related.
Yeah, somebody was smoking up and...
Fell asleep.
Had a little bit of a smoking up-related accident.
Yep. Which is fine, but they have children.
They do. And also, there's other people who live in that building and other people who... Tenants of ours in the Challengers recording studio complex.
Tenants. Yes. So, Dal, there's something you said a few weeks ago that sticks with me, and it's perfectly on point.
I've had that, just a real quick aside, I've had that happen other places where somebody else had brought that up someplace where I'd mentioned something, and it was a real, off-the-cuff, spur-of-the-moment sort of thing, and they brought it up as, I have been thinking about this for weeks, and it's I don't remember anything I say a minute after I say it.
I mean, I think we all have that.
They're all out of my brain.
I can call out specific things people have said that really meant a lot to me and helped me out when I needed it, and I can also point to people telling me advice I gave them that really helped them, and I don't remember saying it.
Yeah.
But I don't doubt it.
It's flattering whenever someone says that, but at the same time it's how do I say I don't remember saying that without it sounding like I'm diminishing your memories?
This isn't like that. You'll remember this because it was on the podcast.
Okay.
And you memorize all of those.
I am aware that we have a podcast.
It was a phrase that you used that perfectly encapsulates retail today, which is all of the tools that we have learned through a lifetime of retail are no longer valuable in selling comics in 2020.
That's true. I applaud whoever said that.
And
they got it right, man.
Specifically, today, emphasize that, as every day does, but the first several phone calls and email interactions I had today were all people who wanted a specific cover of a specific book.
Yeah.
And we had the book, we didn't have their cover.
The right cover. Because the cover was what mattered, not the interior of the actual
and then,
comic. The story, if you will, if I can give it a term.
We had somebody say, hey, are you going to be holding this book when it comes out? And you emailed back and said, yeah, just here's a club form, fill it out and send it back. And they did.
Literally, as soon as I read that club form that was attached, I went, oh, Patrick, you worked the wrong day.
I did, because they sent it back with that one book, and then a list of single-issue DC comics.
Single-issue variants and regular covers.
And I want this issue, but this cover, and then this issue, but this cover.
Golly.
So, I mean, they're in the system, and their 5-issue miniseries book is on it. I didn't do anything else yet.
No.
I don't... a lot of those are new. I don't know if they're in the system.
And also, I think we've harped on this before. This is not anyone's specific fault who is... I should say, it's not a customer's fault, and it's not our fault. Doing special orders for DC variant covers is a nightmare now. It is an absolute nightmare. It is the part of my job that, and I hate so many parts of it, it's the part I hate the most. Because the way that Comic Suite is still not integrated with DC stuff means that, with all these stupid variants, it's how many do we have in order? Do we have enough? I don't know. How do we remember to make sure that this person gets this variant cover? You basically have to go through every single item that is up for DC FOC. No matter what you've ordered before, you have to go through it all again, because what if people added more variant covers?
Right.
And it's all of the checks and balances that we have in Comic Suite for things like variant covers to make sure that they get ordered if they're not already on order, or that we don't oversell what we're getting in, don't exist for DC stuff. So variant covers totally fly them blind. And this is above and beyond the weird structural problems we're having with DC variants, where sometimes Comic Suite just cancels them. Where people will have it on order, and Comic Suite will just decide, oh, you didn't order that from Diamond, we should get rid of that. I can't order it from Diamond. You should not get rid of it.
Didn't you think by this point we'd have some sort of solution from...
I remember people beta testing it and talking about it a month ago.
Yep.
And thinking, it's certainly by August. Here we are, late August, still nothing.
Yeah, so I didn't respond to that new club member, and I didn't do a whole lot with it, but it just makes me sad.
Yeah.
It makes me sad when someone's like, hey, do you have this book? Yeah, we have it. Oh, do you have this cover? No, but we have these 2 other covers. No, I don't want those.
So Eternals #1 is coming out from Marvel Comics.
I was going to bring this up.
40 covers.
Oh, I thought it was 37.
The number I heard, I didn't count them all, but the number I heard was 40 covers.
Yeah, I heard 37.
And I looked at the catalog. I'm like, Jesus Christ, the list just keeps going. for Eternals #1, which is, boy, if you would have told me that in 2015, I'd think you were lying. Every part of that 40 covers for Eternals #1 sounds like a computer designed that phrase. Like, there's no way that that's an actual thing that's happening in a month in 2020.
And I want to make a blanket statement and say we're not going to carry any variant covers, but what if there's an Alex Ross Timeless variant?
There almost definitely is.
Yeah.
I mean, he's doing I think he's doing at least one regular cover for that book. He's probably doing another one on top of that.
They know that book is not going to be a hit.
I think there will be more interest in it than there would normally have been. I think Kieran Gillen is someone that people still have some interest in, although maybe not as much as they did a couple years ago. Esad Ribic is a really talented artist, if art mattered to anyone in comics anymore, because it's all about various hot writers and brand new characters and variant covers.
Well, I mean, you can pretty much guarantee that if this is more than 6 issues, they'll have a different artist.
Oh, for sure. Esad Ribic, oh my god, if he's on past issue 4, I'd be stunned. It's like Olivier Coipel, he does 3 issues and he's out.
But also because I don't know that they can afford him after that.
I just don't think he's, like, his only value is launching a book. I don't think they have any interest in, like, artistic continuity or story consistency. Those aren't things that matter anymore. It's about launching at big numbers. That's it. The end. But I will say that I think an Eternals book with that creative team and coming out in November 2020 with the movie theoretically on the horizon, it's something that, a few years ago we might have ordered 10 or 15 copies, but I think now we probably order 20 or 30.
We're going to order 40 and only one of each cover.
But I don't think it's a thing where we, this is not necessarily a book where we're going to order 100 copies. I don't think there's anywhere near as much interest as that number would imply.
No, definitely not.
Which is probably why there's 40 covers. Because the regular cover is going to launch in about 60,000 copies. I
want to meet the store that orders all these covers.
I don't get it. Yeah. Overall, it's so insane to me. I can barely see it for things like Donny Cates' Thor #1 or whatever. And when we've bought in on that, we've still got copies of those variant covers for Thor #1. And this is the hottest book in the industry, and we still have Chris Anka variants that no one cares about.
Stacks of the Coipel cover on the rack.
Sure.
Or a stack, I should say.
Yeah, of the first print cover A. Still got them. Cover price.
So let me ask you this. Since they announced the Thor #6 second printing.
Yes.
Even if we still have a stack of first prints?
Yes.
Okay.
Because we talked about this. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you still have first prints available. It doesn't matter if you have other covers. People want the new printings because a very prominent chain of comic shops had in their weekly email about how people have gotten the idea now, based on some reality and a lot of speculator hype, that later printings are sometimes more valuable than early printings because there's a lot less of them. Because it's no longer about meeting reader demand, it's about creating additional variant covers. It's one of the reasons why Marvel will almost always solicit orders for a reprint before the first print is even out or on sale. Because it's not about how many copies are out there, it's about them being able to sell you 2,000 to 10,000 copies of a new printing with a different cover, because all that matters is that the cover is different.
Let's say you, Del Bush, comic fan, don't own a comic store.
Allegedly. Go on.
There's a new Power Pack #1 coming out.
It's in the next catalog. It got resolicited. It's come back out. Could be a birthday gift to Dad.
It's not that one, though. And you go into the store, and you're like, hey, you have Power Pack #1? And they're like, yeah, there's 40 covers. Would you even look at all 40 covers to pick one?
I mean, I'd look. Definitely, even...
How much time would that... 40 covers?
I mean, to look at 40 covers, it probably wouldn't take me that long. I'll say this. We talked about it...
I don't want that many choices.
When Power Pack #1 was solicited by Marvel, the Ryan North, Nico Leon series, I was very excited about it, except the cover I saw was the Ryan Stegman one, and I did not like it, and did not think it fit the tone or look of Power Pack. And he just seemed like the worst suited artist for that book. And when I looked at the other variants, I'm like, these are all great covers. The A cover is the worst one, and it's the one that, the other ones are incentive variants. We can't even just go, we're going to get this, Petrovich cover, because that's the better one. Can't. It's a 1 in 25. My only choice, if I want to carry that for the shelf, is the Ryan Stegman cover, and I don't like how it looks, and I don't think it's going to appeal to fans of what the book actually is on the inside. And they probably just picked Stegman because Stegman's hot.
I don't want to be the elder statesman in this conversation, but do you remember
But
when
as someone who's been in comics 1 year longer than I have,
person... I'm sorry, I believe I say a full-time comics retailer?
That's true, yeah.
Remember when the person who drew the book did the cover?
I do, but that's usually not what comics are about anymore because, I mean, Peach Momoko's not going to do interior artwork.
Sure.
Jenny Frisen's not going to do interior artwork. Yeah, George Molina is not going to do interior artwork. Alex Ross is only going to do a few pages of interior artwork if Steve Darnell writes it, and so on and so forth. Yeah, I mean, that was a thing that really started to change back in, I want to say, like, the Bill Jemas, Joe Quesada days of Marvel. That's when they really started to say, okay, the cover is really like a movie poster. So it doesn't matter if it matches what's on the inside in story content, in
It's true.
Tone in anything.
Most movie posters aren't done by the people that wrote or starred in the movie.
That's true.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point. So while I had many interactions today that were like that, that were just like, oh, you have the wrong cover.
Yeah.
One of the good reactions is somebody who comes in and says, hey, I just got my hair cut around the corner
is that
at
Margarita?
Chicago Barbershop.
It is.
And I was asking them about stuff, and they strongly recommended I come here. I'm new to comics. I'm a big sci-fi person. What do you recommend? First of all, thank you for coming in. Second of all, let's go.
Second of all, did you compliment their haircut?
I did, of course I did.
Okay. So
of course
then
I did.
Third of all would be like, let's find you a book.
It was like, hey, what aspects of sci-fi do you like? And let's go through. And now I don't expect this every time, but the first 4 books I recommended, bought.
That's great.
And then stopped after, and he's like, all right, I think this is good for now. I'm like, all right, great. Any guesses?
Saga.
Yep.
Paper Girls.
No.
Sci-fi.
Yeah.
Bitch Planet?
Nope. I'll just tell you.
Okay, thanks.
Because I started at the front counter.
Coda?
Of course. Well, Coda is more
fantasy.
fantasy.
It
Yeah.
is, yeah.
So if I'm like, what aspects of sci-fi do you like? Do you like space battles or intricate ships or like drama set in space? He said he likes dystopian futures. So Undiscovered Country.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, honestly, if I had the front table in front of me, I probably could go at least 3 for 4 on this.
Yeah, I didn't do.
But it's hard to remember what we.
I didn't do Little Bird because I'm like, all right, I don't want to give you. I don't want to stack genres.
Sure.
Like, so the other 2 were Sentient, which we got back in today.
Great.
So we're down 1 already.
Yeah, that's fine.
And Letter 44.
Okay, those are good ones.
Yeah. Classic hardcore political drama, sci-fi.
Yeah, if I was looking at the bookshelves, I probably would have also gone for. I had it and I lost it. Trillium, I might have recommended.
Okay. I think that's a weird one, or like a tough one for a new comic reader.
I think it's got, but
because you got to turn the book upside down.
You do, but at the same time, I think a lot of that is like what you read comics for, like an experience you literally can't get in any other genre,
very true,
or any other medium. Sci-fi though, yeah, Angelic maybe. I think Angelic is really good and under a lot of people's radar. But I mean, everything you recommended was good.
Thanks.
Sure.
But it was the kind of interaction that the tools that I have honed over the last 30 years are there for.
Is reading stories, understanding stories, being able to
like
you explain stories to people, and then
figuring out what you want and figuring out what matches that.
Yeah.
And then also being able to convey it in a way that makes you excited to read it.
Not just, here's a book I put in your hand. It's like, here's why what you've told me makes me think you'll like this story. Here's the elements in the story that I think you'll like.
And the absolute 100% best part of this interaction is when I put a book in his hand, he didn't say, do you have a different cover?
And then you take that copy of Saga out of his hand, write in marker really big on it, no, and then hand it back and go, here's a new cover.
Here is the all Alana mustache variant. Give me an hour and every panel of... Actually, I think it would take a little more than an hour if it was every panel in that book.
She's in a lot of panels.
I'm sure I told the story before where... This is a terrible story. This is a terrible story, and I stopped you from saying something bad before. Where someone many, many years ago in a different store was so annoying that I gave Reed Richards a full mustache and beard in every panel of the Fantastic Four comic he was buying. And he never said anything about it. I think it's because I was consistent. Maybe he didn't even notice.
Maybe. I wonder if that's a thing where, like, he brings it up on, like, message boards and stuff. It's like, how come no one ever talks about that one comic where Reed Richards just had a mustache? Why does no one ever bring that up? It was so weird.
Every panel.
And then the next issue, it's like he didn't have it and he never talked about it. why did the artist draw it that way? And everyone's like, what are you talking about?
I
It's
mean,
I could never find that issue.
If you go back to FF #1 of this current run with Sarah Pichelli doing the art, his facial hair varied greatly from page to page.
Sure. So did the 4 emblem.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that is why comic shops are still valuable and why...
They were to that person, sure.
Right. And that's why I still see the purpose in what we do.
Yeah, I mean, there's been plenty of interactions like that, especially because of the pandemic, where people are maybe looking for a little bit more entertainment than they're used to, or don't have as many options as they once had. So, when they go to a comic shop, they really want to get a bunch of new books. They want to get a bunch of, just stock up on things. And so, I've definitely had interactions where people come in and they're like, I heard about this one thing, and then they're like, oh, what about this other thing, and so on. And so, frequently, all we talk about, seemingly, is the negative interactions and the collector aspect and all that stuff. But I mean, graphic novel sales for us are great right now. People are really, really engaged with the medium. It's just there is, as much as graphic novels have grown, we've also seen a pretty large growth in the collectible aspect.
Yeah.
And that's if graphic novels pulled ahead more, it would feel less like the collectible stuff was as problematic. But because they're kind of neck and neck, it's like every time I think that we're doing more with story, then it's like, no, here's an interaction or a series of interactions or a book that is just, it's all speculator oriented in dumb ways.
And it doesn't help when DC announces hey, here's the shared variants. I'm sorry, the team variants you can get for this Punchline special.
Don't worry, you only have to order 500 covers.
Only 500 minimum 500 copies.
Minimum 500.
And my
Also,
favorite part
could
about
be
this,
allocated.
my favorite part is, here's the artists that are doing it. You don't get to pick.
No. You can prioritize. You can say this one, and this one. But then if you don't get this one, then you get this one instead. And if you only ask for one cover and we can't allocate it to you, then you get nothing. And it's
so how can you, as a store, even pre-sell those?
Yeah, all of this is just incredibly frustrating.
Hey, do you want our limited edition Peach Momoko cover for Punchline #1? We can't guarantee we're going to have that.
I don't.
Which, for the record, Challengers is 100% not going to have that.
Not going to. Zero copies of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole thing is we've talked about this before, but so much of what DC is about now is about wringing as many dollars as they can out of the speculator market, and it's driving me crazy. There was a thing that even Image Comics did in a retailer-focused email last week where they were talking about stuff that was on FOC, and they specifically called out the Ice Cream Man second print for the most recent issue as being a new Seuss-themed variant, because the Seuss-themed cover B was going for so much, and they called out how much it was going for online, as though you should order a bunch. And they did sort of a similar thing for Firepower, where they're we're hearing a lot of stores are selling Firepower #2, and the gold and silver variants are going for a lot. And it's do not give me that. I do not want a retailer-focused email to be about how well the speculator market is doing. If you're doing that as a publisher, I have less confidence in your books now, because all you're saying is it's all fool's gold. It's all manipulative. That's all I'm getting from DC when I'm seeing all of the 1 in 25 variants and the team variants and the whatever, premiere variants or whatever, is that it's not even worth talking about the story content because it's irrelevant. It's about tricking people into buying more copies. It's tricking us into buying more copies so we can then trick other people into buying more copies. It's all a pyramid scheme. So seeing that come from an Image email was don't do that.
They just want to be relevant. They know what the kids want.
They do. And I mean, it's somebody who's brand new, and I feel a little bad for someone's second or third week on the job being hey, listen. And I did not go to them directly and write an email saying I find it mildly offensive that this is the tactic you want to use to try and sell books, is telling me how much previous printings are going for online. I don't want to hear that from a publisher. Ever. Literally ever. If that's something that's happening in the market, fine, but I don't want you leaning into it. I do not ever want to see that.
Maybe they should just sell their books directly to eBay then.
Honestly, I mean, if that's the case, am I your customer, or is the guy on eBay your customer? Which one is it?
You're not my customer. You never buy anything from me.
I think you're right.
When is the last time I sold you anything in the store?
I mean,
all my recommendations.
They're terrible.
Right out
They're
the
all
window.
Terrible.
Right out the window. You never come back. You never say, wow, you know what was really good? That book you recommended, because it was my favorite book.
Yeah.
I want to say hello to our friend Johnny, who we hadn't seen for a little while. Johnny and his friend Tad started coming into the store on Saturdays, like once a month, toward the end of last year. Mm-hmm. Then the pandemic, we were closed down.
Which is maybe why I never saw them, because I worked Saturdays in the pandemic.
That's true.
And then they were not coming in.
Yeah, I was going to say, you worked Saturdays, but you did in the pandemic.
I did.
We found out that Johnny had gotten the COVID-19 virus and was hospitalized for weeks.
And has recovered from it.
But he's recovered, and he's doing well, and it was good to see him. And he's a huge Legion fan, and we're glad that he's
the third person, I think, that has come into the store that has mentioned they've had COVID-19 and recovered from it.
Wow.
Which is why whenever I see people or hear people talk about how it's not real virus and it's all a hoax, it's like, I know that's not true. I've seen people who are still struggling with recovery from it. So it's
and you knew Herman Cain.
It's cruel. It's cruel for someone out there to say that it is a hoax. I think it's absurd and cruel.
So it was good to see Johnny again.
Yeah, it was. It was very good.
Also got to see Mike Norton today. He came by.
Yeah, how's he doing?
He's doing all right. He had, his family had a tragedy over
It's true. I feel badly about that.
But he's at a weird point in his career, but he's good.
I'm glad to hear that.
He brought in a guitar for someone else, not for me.
Was it Mr. Guitar?
It was a Jackson.
Oh, Mr. Guitar.
It was a Jackson guitar.
Oh, Mr. Guitar, you're a sad little thing.
Actually, Don Cardenas had bought it from him.
Nice.
Yeah, Mike was there, and he stuck around Richard a little bit. He actually helped me break down some boxes.
Cool.
He's like, I can't believe how busy the store is now.
I can't believe it either, honestly.
And it's funny, well, because he was there when we had there were twice today that I had to be like, oh man,
yeah,
we're at capacity.
Yeah, I've had that some Sundays.
Yeah, and because it's families.
Yeah, all it takes is if a family is 3 or 4 people, all it takes is 3 families, and you're like,
yeah. But at the point he said it, we'd had a lot of people in, but the dollar total was low for that point in a Friday. And I'm always that guy where people are like, why looks you doing so good? Well, actually, no. But I mean, it did make me wonder, and I explained to him how it's a lot of people don't have the same job schedules because of the pandemic, or they can, since they work from home, they can come in whenever.
That's the thing that's so weird is that we have these days where it's like, we're slammed and we're doing great. And then it's like, but we still can't stay open until 7 because once it hits 5 o'clock, Bucktown is a ghost town.
Yeah. I wonder if during the school year, we'll still be busier than normal because with kids and parents forced to stay at home for so long, getting out of the house at all is a treat. And then going to a comic store is the bonus on top of that.
So what are you saying? Like, will we need to be open later? Or
no. I wonder.
We'll be as busy.
Yeah,
I think you're right.
I don't know that it'll drop off like it could normally during a school year.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect it to, especially because there's just far less demands on people's time this fall and winter, likely, than in years past. I mean, beyond school, there's less things to go to. There's less, events or work functions or school functions or sports or whatever. Again, that's one of the things I think has led to a lot more people picking up graphic novels is, with no movies to go to or concerts to go to or vacations to go on or whatever. If you're just at home, there's only so much Netflix you can watch before you're like, I want to do something else. We've all had instances where we've taken up new hobbies or done other things. It could be puzzles, it could be model kits, it could be, more writing, more whatever. And I think for a lot of people who are comics fans, they're just finding more time for comics. Not all of them, but some of them.
And I still want to point out that while we're talking about how surprised we are, how busy it is, this is not record-breaking sales. We thought it would be terrible, and it's not terrible.
Yeah.
We're still $80,000 down from last year.
This is not like we've done so well the last couple months where we've wiped out what we, the 3 months before that. It's mostly that we thought no one was going to come in, so the fact that a bunch of people are coming in is great. Although, I will say this, Wednesdays are still significantly higher than they were before the pandemic.
Yeah.
Significantly. In a way where it's like, I don't understand where this is all coming from, because it's not like there's other days of the week we can point at and go, well, these are way down. It's not like more people have shifted to Wednesday. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't understand how Wednesday can just be going up like this.
I just don't want us to be at a point where we're saying, oh, we need a lawyer because we can't afford this lease. We're doing so great.
Yeah, no,
If we were doing so great, we wouldn't need a lawyer because of that lease.
No, for sure. Yeah, it's while Wednesdays are significantly up, it's not like, when I say that it's not pulling sales necessarily from other places, it's not like we can point to one day and go, well, that day's down 50%, so that 50% must have gone to Wednesdays.
Yeah, and there are people that had routines that we would see every Wednesday or every Friday or whatever, and it's not like we're saying, oh, they're in every Wednesday now instead of Friday is what your point is.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's a lot more people who are coming in a little more regularly versus
and
like once a month or so.
Right. And I mean, there's some other variables. Like, there are still people that are coming in that have not been in a while, either for their
that's the thing.
Today, stuff or non-subscription stuff.
Today was a average Friday and average Friday, but we only hit it because we had a couple of club members who had, $100 piles worth of books.
Sure.
Because they hadn't been in for a while.
Well, I'm glad they came in, because this Sunday is probably going to be another day where I go through some delinquents.
Yeah, we never posted this photo, but Dal took a photo of all the club members we've dropped, people that haven't been in since like February.
Honestly, some of them are people who have not been in 2020.
And
like they were delinquent, and then the pandemic hit, and we were like, we can't call them now.
We gave everybody a lot of slack because of the pandemic and the shutdown, and we don't want to be the people like, hey, the world's falling apart, but you owe us
you still
got to
buy your books. And especially when there weren't books for like a month and a half. It was like, well, I feel I don't want to chase this person down for $30. But then, that stuff started coming out again, and it had been 2 more months, and suddenly it's like, look, you have not been in 9 months. Like, this is a problem.
Yeah.
And even some of those people that I contacted then just didn't come in. We had someone who came in, I can't remember if it was Sunday or Monday, but they came in and I didn't recognize them. They're like, I'm here for my subscription stuff. I'm like, okay, what was the name? And they gave me their name, and they're like, I got a phone call and about picking my stuff up. I hadn't been in a while. I'm really sorry. And I'm like, when did you get a phone call? I think it was like a week ago. And I looked at the call sheet. I'm like, okay, it was 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Oh, so everything went back out. Oh, can I just buy a gift card or something? That's okay.
Like, what do they want the gift card for?
Like, because they felt bad. I'm like,
I see.
We're already done with this.
Yeah.
I did not want to have an interaction with them where they like threw money at me to make up for all of the hassle.
Can I be back in the club?
No. And I was like, I can give you a list of everything you want. Oh, I mean, I'm kind of not into comics so much anymore. Like, okay.
Oh, we had no idea.
Yeah. I guess that was why.
Which is fine. It's totally fine. If you're not into comics, please just tell us.
Yeah, and this was... the person in particular was someone who was with us. Like, basically signed up for Hawks and Pox last year.
Oh, okay.
Then, like a lot of people, when Hawks and Pox transitioned to the X-Men books, suddenly they were in a lot less often.
Yeah.
And we had to chase them down a little bit, I think, for the first time. And then they asked to have their stuff transferred over to River North because that was closer to them. Literally never came into River North while that store was open. We transferred their books back over to Bucktown, sent them emails about it, and then sent them an email and gave them a phone call about the delinquent books. And this is on top of the regular weekly emails for the X-Men books they were subscribed to.
Yeah, that's the one thing. When people are saying, like, oh, I didn't know you guys were open again, we've been emailing you every single week.
Yeah. But they've never opened those, so those probably just go to their spam folder. Yeah. And they never look in there. And I mean, that's on top of people who have 800 unread emails in their inbox. So regardless of whether or not you've emailed them, they're not even opening the emails that are in their inbox. They're just not even looking in there. Which is why we email and call people, because for a lot of them, they might listen to that voicemail at some point, but they'll never read that email.
And while we have had a couple of new club members in the last week or so,
sure.
How many did you have to drop?
Oh, God. Recently?
Yeah.
7 or 8, probably.
Okay.
Including some people who've been with us for like 3 years.
Yep.
But just became unreachable.
Yeah,
and I don't know if something's going on in their life. I don't know. But yeah, like you said, just talk to us.
Yep.
Like, I'm totally fine working it out with people, but when it's just, complete radio silence,
I'll never forget, we had a club member pass away, and their mother called us like the next day or right around it just to say, hey...
Within 72 hours of her son passing.
Yeah, and then we have people that move and just never call us.
Yeah, the all-time best phone calls are the ones where it's like, oh, I forgot to tell you I moved. Like, you had a routine of coming to this store like twice a month, and it just never occurred to you. Like, and again, the emails, the books that were still showing up for you when you had to move your comics. Did you never think, don't I get those someplace, or do they just show up in my apartment? They don't.
One of my favorites is people that become delinquent, and then you finally get a hold of them. They're like, "Oh no, I've moved." It's like, "Oh, well, we were still holding these books. Oh, can you put them back out or whatever?" Mm-hmm. And then they come in every once in a while, like, "You're still in the neighborhood."
Yeah, you didn't move that far away.
Yeah, there's a couple of people like that.
Sure.
But those people aren't listening to us right now, but you are, and we appreciate it. Mm-hmm. Thanks for listening.
And keep reading comics.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com. Like Challengers Comics on Facebook, follow @Challengers on Twitter, and help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.
I got a notification that my Anne Berlin live stream is coming up.
How long?
29 minutes from now.
Oof.